What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So for today's head-to-head comparison, we have two hybrids. We're going to take a look at the 2024 Hyundai Tucson Limited and the 2023 Honda CRV all-wheel drive Sport Touring. Both of these have an MSRP at $1,000 of a difference. So we have 40 grand and $41,000. They're also both in a similar blue too. We have Canyon River Blue and Deep Sea. So we are going to start off today's review with what powers both of these hybrid SUVs. So starting over on the Hyundai, this has a 1.6 liter turbo 4-cylinder paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission. It pumps out 226 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. Over on the Honda, this has a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder paired to an electronic CVT. This pumps out 204 horsepower and 247 pound-feet of torque. So you do get that slight increase in horsepower and torque having the turbo over on the Hyundai. They also have about a 100-pound difference in curb weight. The Hyundai comes in at 3,800 pounds and the Honda is at 3,900 pounds. 0 to 60 is just over 7 seconds, closer to 7.5. And as far as fuel economy goes, the Hyundai has a 13.7 gallon fuel tank. It's going to average right around 37 miles per gallon in the city, 36 out on the Honda highway. For the Honda at 14 gallons, you're looking at 40 in the city and 34 out on the highway. So they are relatively similar for what they have. There's also a lot of similarities and a lot of differences between both of these smaller size SUVs. So let's start up front now with the exterior styling. You'll notice that the grille and headlight design is very, very identical. Now over on the Hyundai, you'll notice that we have very clean bodywork surrounding where the DRLs are and turn signals in the upper housing. Lower housing is where the headlights and the high beams are. But we have that very integrated design running through. Where over on the Honda, a little bit more bodywork underneath the headlight housings, and they're in the upper section there. So it flows just a little bit different, but it's a very similar look. Now on the Honda, there's a forward-facing camera. We have all the sensors. This is for the adaptive cruise and the distance pacing. There's some more cutouts in the lower section, and then nice lines that come down the hood. Where over on the Honda, the sensor is actually the Honda logo. There's also sensors up top too, or in the lower section, along with some more cutouts and some brush trim accents. There's some in the lower section too, over on the Hyundai, and some lines coming down both sides of the hood. So very, very similar front end designs. There's even some inlets on the sides of the headlight housings and then some in that lower section there, just to provide a little bit more airflow for both of these. Now, as we work our way to the sides, they both have a set of 19-inch wheels. And then for these mirrors, the Hyundai gets the 360 camera system. So there's a camera as well as a turn signal. You just get the camera on the Honda. The Honda also has a sunroof for just your front passengers, where the Hyundai is going to give you that full panoramic sunroof. We have some similar trim accents for both of the windows with the chrome and then brushed aluminum for the Hyundai there. And then as well as the lines that run down the sides just above both door handles on each of them. Coming back to the corner here, where on the Honda, the taillight actually separates the liftgate from this bodywork. Over on the Hyundai, you'll notice that the lights are in the lower section, but this line continues its way into the liftgate, going all the way to the other side. So a minor difference there. On the Hyundai too, you get the wiper blade tucked up underneath the spoiler there, backup camera with all these sensors, and some cool designs in the lower section where the turn signals are. Now this can also tow right around 2,000 pounds. And then for the Honda, the wiper blade is exposed. We have the third brake light up top though, backup camera, all the sensors. There are exhaust pipes on both sides versus none over on the Hyundai, and the towing is right around 1,000 pounds. Now you are not buying either of these as a towing SUV, but you could put in a bike rack or something like that and hook up all of that equipment. Now, before we work our way to the interior, let's take a look at the key fobs, because on the Hyundai here, you have a lot more controls than you do for the Honda. Both of these do have remote start. You can also use the button to open the liftgate, but on the Hyundai, you actually have the Smart Park Assist. So let's show this just really quick. Starting this up, you can actually push on one of these buttons if you want to move the vehicle forwards or if you want to move it backwards. And so this is really helpful for parking lot situations or even in your driveway, like what I'm doing right now. And I've actually used it to move these cars in and out of the driveway. You don't even have to get into the vehicle in order to do it. It is a bit slow, but it's something that is very cool nonetheless. And then you can easily shut it off. The Honda does not get that. You just have remote start and then the rest of the similar controls. Let's work our way now to both of the lift gates. Let's see which one can open up first. Honda wins. But once we have these opened up, there's a good bit of storage space for the smaller size that they are. Now under the floor, you have a little bit of storage space with these compartments here. There's a little bit more to the left and the right where you could place the cover that you can install. So you can actually hide it underneath the floor when not in use. There's a 12 volt as well as some tie downs. You can even fold the back seats down as well by pulling on these levers here. And of course that gives you a lot more interior space. There's also a button located up top. Now over in the Honda, you have a little bit of space on both sides. I haven't been able to really open up the floor. I'm not sure if you can actually do this or I just opened it up by accident. You don't really have any storage underneath the floor there that I've really been able to see. But you have a little bit of space on both sides. You have a 12 volt. You can't fold the back seats down from back here. I guess you could reach here and push the seat if you wanted to, but you have an area where you can put in that same cover as well. And of course, fold those seats down too as needed. Same button up top in order to close that power lift gate. But let's work our way to the back seats now. We'll start over in the Hyundai Tucson. Obviously interiors are going to be different, color schemes and everything like that is your personal choice. But for this one, we have the white interior, nice materials. I'm basically just gonna go over that for the comparison. A little bit of storage down below, and then you do get heated rear seats for this model. As far as spacing goes, I'm 5'10", I have plenty of space. There's storage nets, climate vents, even some auxiliaries. You get the armrest with 2 cup holders, and then this is the difference between all the way up and all the way reclined. And then the full moonroof, which gives you a lot of light. So it's very spacious for your backseat passengers, and having the heated seats is definitely a plus. Now, you can't unlock this from the back doors, so we'll go all the way around. Obviously, you have the key fob too if you'd like to use that. But then we have very nice materials for the armrest, a little bit more storage than over on the Hyundai. No heated rear seats, however, but the spacing in the back is virtually identical. We have the climate adjustments, auxiliaries, just like in the Hyundai. And here's the difference between up and reclined. We have the armrest, 2 cup holders, very similar. And I didn't show the visibility, but pillars are pretty much identical. You're just missing the full panoramic sunroof. Some people don't like that option. Some people just like the sunroof, which is perfectly fine. Just depends on your preference with what you like, of course. Now, let's jump to the front of the Honda first. Now, I have full reviews on both of these vehicles, so if you want to see everything in greater detail, check out those videos. I'm going to go through it a little bit quick today since I have those videos, so if you're interested in checking them out. But for this Honda CRV, we have the heated steering wheel, we have the lane keeping assist, steering assist. You don't get a full digital gauge cluster. It's just on this left side here where you can scroll through some information. So you have quite a lot that you can go through. And again, I'm going through it pretty quick, but you do get a good amount that you can go through. And you even have the adjustments for the regenerative braking. So the paddle shifters are not for changing gears, therefore setting the levels for that EV system to be able to charge it much quicker. It's kind of like one pedal driving where you don't necessarily have to use the brake pedal as much depending on the setting that you are in. We have the control for that lift gate, and we have the screen up top, a little bit on the small side, but you have all the icons that you can go through. You can hook your phone up to this. It has built-in nav, and then the rest of the shortcuts underneath that. What's really cool too is this design for the air vents going all the way to the passenger side. We get heated seats, all the climate adjustments, wireless charging with some other auxiliaries. You even have a few different driving modes, just depending on how you'd like to drive this. We have the auto hold, downhill assist, and then a good bit of storage space up front. So there's no shortage of storage, and you even get a sunglass holder up top. So it's very nice layout. It's a little bit more on the simple side, I would say, but for the price, it's not bad. It's very nice if you're not into too much technology. But as we work our way to the Hyundai now, as you can tell right off the bat, it is a much different layout. We have a little bit more controls on the steering wheel as far as favorites go. We have the lane keeping assist and a lot more for the digital gauge cluster. So you can go through all this info. Maybe I wouldn't say it's that much more, but you do have the full digital gauge cluster, which I think is a nicer look. We have the paddle shifters to actually shift gears in this 6-speed transmission. We have the rear liftgate release, some other dimmer switches and traction control. Neither of these models have a head-up display. So that's one thing that I'm not sure why neither of them do. I feel like they should for the top trim level. But for this screen, you do get a good bit more of info that you can scroll through. And then everything underneath that is laid out incredibly well. Now, we don't have physical buttons, which I know a lot of people do like. Well, or I should rephrase that. These are physical buttons, but they're not dials, which I know people do like. But they're super easy to use. Everything is laid out just like over on the Honda, very well, easily laid out. Underneath that, we have some storage. I do not believe that this has a wireless charger. I haven't seen anything down below. There's nothing in the center armrest, but you do have the auxiliaries to charge electronics. Now, this does get heated and ventilated seats. Heated steering wheel is the same, but we have that 360 camera system that is not over on the Honda. So even putting it into drive, you get all of these angles, which I think is missing from the Honda, which would be nice to see. And the gear shift is obviously a little different. But we do have some similar driving modes that you can go into. And then this also has a center locking diff. So if you had to go off the pavement, maybe you're going hiking or something like that, this is going to be an advantage over not having one on the Honda. So having that locking diff will help you in certain situations. And then everything else is laid out very similar, along with all the storage. No sunglass holder on this model. However, it does get the garage door buttons, which the Honda is missing. And then we have that full panoramic sunroof. And visibility is going to be just as similar, I would say, as the Honda there. And you do get a little bit more storage on both sides there. So setting off now in the Hyundai Tucson, this has been a really nice vehicle. There's not going to be too many differences that I've been able to tell over the last week of driving both of these SUVs. But for the Hyundai, I really don't have any complaints with it. It's super comfortable and quiet. Now, we can also put it into sport mode here, where the gauge cluster will change slightly. And with these paddles from second gear, we can give it a little bit of gas to merge into traffic here. And they do a good job. It's not something that you're going to be using every single day, not a vehicle that you need them, but it is nice if you have to downshift for whatever reason, you can tap on one of those paddles and get up and moving a little bit quicker. So it's nice that they are incorporated for this vehicle, but even a trash truck like that passing, it's very well insulated. And I think for the price of it too, you are getting a lot compared to other vehicles. So for right around 40 grand, even comparing it to the Honda with some of the extra tech, even the digital gauge cluster with the the camera there, so that way you can check for blind spots on both sides, which I didn't mention earlier, it is an advantage, I would say, over some other vehicles. And just the tech in general, it's something that you'd find on more expensive vehicles. And for the last test, we'll do a quick UE just for maneuverability purposes, because we have that 360 camera system, which I will say is definitely a plus. That is something that every vehicle should have. Gives you all that visibility, even a little bit when you're going at slow speeds in the forwards direction. But yeah, this has been a nice vehicle for the week. Let's hop into the Honda. And now setting off in the Honda, I feel like there's a little bit more of a struggle in a sense, not having the turbo like in the Hyundai, but it's still adequate for the style vehicle and getting up and merging into traffic situations like that. The only difference is the paddle shifters, like I mentioned earlier, are not for shifting gears. So as we get up to speed now, we can actually use the paddles to adjust the regenerative braking for this EV system, which is very interesting to see since it's not a plug-in hybrid. The engine is still charging the EV system, but if you want to charge it a little bit quicker, or you just you just want to use it for kind of one pedal driving, like I mentioned earlier, you have the adjustments to do that with these paddles. So that's definitely interesting to see. But aside from that, the rest of the driving that I've done in this Honda over the last week has been very, very identical to the Hyundai. I can't really say there's an advantage or disadvantage between either of them as far as being on the highway, just normal daily driving. They're both very comfortable, both refined feeling. The Honda is going to have better reliability than the Hyundai. That's just manufacturer there. So if you want something that is going to last longer, statistically, it will be the Honda. And the only downside I will say as we do our maneuverability tests like we did in the Hyundai is no 360. But if you're not used to that, or maybe it's just something you don't really want or need as we go into a neutral there, it's still going to give you adequate amount of space or visibility there. And one more acceleration. You can definitely notice the difference. Even though the Hyundai doesn't have that much more power, the torque is a little bit more. And so now that we are back from the test drives in the Honda CRV and the Hyundai Tucson, honestly, these are very, very similar, smaller size SUVs. They are very competitive too. So you can be cross-shopping both of these, and hopefully today's video helped you decide which one you would rather go with. They are extremely similar. They do have some differences as you've seen in today's video. So it really just depends on your brand loyalty, which one is going to work best for your lifestyle. So again, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Give it a huge thumbs up if you did. Make sure you check out both full detailed reviews if you want to see further details on both of these. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads, and I will see you all in the next video.